Welcome into this special Sunday morning edition of On Texas Football / basketball. We're going to be talking Rodney Terry this morning, the future of Texas basketball, kind of an update there. We've had updates on ontexasfootball.com, had some great discussions there. Come join that message board, have at it with everybody. We've had some great discussions, whether it's Texas football recruiting, basketball, everything around Rodney Terry and the future of the Texas basketball program. Head on over to ontexasfootball.com. This morning, though, I wanted to update, kind of get the Sunday morning started with where we're at in this process. As Bobby Burton and myself have been reporting for several days now, On Texas Football continues to believe that Rodney Terry has coached his final game at the University of Texas. Now, what the big question then becomes, what happens next and when does that happen? Well, that ball is in the Texas athletic director, Chris Del Conte, and staff's hands. And so we'll see how the timing of everything plays out. There's a lot of things that go into this. First of all, the portal opens March 25th and runs through April 15th. That doesn't mean there's necessarily a rush to make a move, but it does signify the importance of that date and making a move relatively quickly. That doesn't mean it has to be on March 25th when the day the portal opens, but I think we could see some movement around that time, if not before. We'll see. Again, that's the University of Texas's decision on how things quickly move, vetting of candidates, making that decision on who the next hire who the next head coach at the University of Texas will be. So I think let's get into then some of that. Who should we be focusing on as Texas fans? Who should Texas fans be focusing on? Well, we put out a report on ontexasfootball.com Saturday morning that a front runner had emerged. And we've continued to hear the name Sean Miller, the Xavier coach, who has a tremendous resume. Is currently the Xavier coach. Obviously, he was at Xavier where he got his first head coaching job. Then he went to Arizona where he had a tremendous run of success. Then he came back to Arizona. They came back to Xavier. In his first year back at Xavier, they went to the Sweet 16. Year two, missed the NCAA tournament, but they lost Zach Freemantle for the season, their best player. This year, obviously, beat Texas in the play-in game, then lost to Illinois this season again. He's had some rough luck with injuries. One of his top two transfers, Traore, the big man from Long Beach State, injured his knee before the start of the season, missed the entire season, a guy that averaged a double-double. So Xavier returned to the NCAA tournament 13-7 in conference play and did so without one of the guys that was going to be one of their key pieces, one of their top 3 or 4 players on the team. Got into the NCAA tournament, obviously beat Texas in the playing game 86-80, then lost to Illinois 86-73 in the round of 64. But one of the things about Sean Miller that, I really personally like as a coach, look at the offensive style, 71 possessions per game offensively at Xavier this season. He's a guy that plays an up-tempo ball movement, a lot of player movement, a really good offensive style of basketball, one that can compete with the upper echelon of offenses and offensive coaches in college basketball. So I think Sean Miller is one of the elite offensive coaches in the college game. And they did so obviously with 71 possessions per game. That's a willingness to play fast in college basketball. In an era of college basketball where the game is getting more higher scoring, you're going to have more possessions per game, and that means you have to be a really good offensive mind to quickly adapt and make changes and maximize offensive capability. So let's go through his resume real quick. So we're talking 56 years old. He has 487 wins, 195 losses, 22-12 in the NCAA tournament, 4 Elite Eights, 1 at Xavier, his first time at Xavier as a first-time head coach, 3 Elite Eights at Arizona. He has 8 Sweet 16s out of 13 NCAA tournament appearances. So that per hit rate on the Sweet 16s is amongst the highest in college basketball amongst current coaches right now. 3 Pac-12 tournament championships, 5 Pac-10, Pac-12 regular season championships, an A-10 tournament championship, 3 Pac-12 Coach of the Years, and an A-10 Coach of the Year. He had 13 NBA draft picks while at Arizona, lot of familiar names that college basketball and NBA fans out there, guys that are still in the league, such as DeAndre Ayton, Lauri Markkanen, Christian Koloko. You go down that list of guys still in the NBA, Aaron Gordon, some guys who recently retired in the NBA, Derek Williams, Solomon Hill, Rondé Hollis Jefferson. So that list of players that Sean Miller had, very, very impressive over the years at Arizona. And I think that's the other thing about Sean Miller that's impressive to me as one of the guys, the prime candidates to be the next head coach at Texas, and the guy we believe is emerged as a front runner, barring some things we'll talk about here later in the video. But again, fast-paced offensive system, high possessions per game, ball really moves, doesn't stick, a lot of player movement, a lot of ball movement, an offense that is conducive to drivers of the basketball at the point guard position, outside shooting, making the extra pass, basketball IQ guys. And in today's day and age, one of the most important things for me is can you maximize a roster through offensive evaluation, then coaching? If you're watching the SEC this year, the NCAA tournament, these games are being won in the 80s and 90s. You have to be able to score the ball at a high rate. And the only way you can score the ball at a high rate is if you put a roster together on an annual basis. Like Rick Pitino said, it's almost like European basketball. It's one-year contracts, and you're building these teams for 1 year, sometimes two. But you have to put these rosters together with talented offensive players who are willing defenders. And you got to play good defense, but you have to play really good offense nowadays. And you have to be able to mold these rosters to where everything fits together and you can maximize your roster offensively and then have the parts to overcome injury, as well as we saw with Texas this year and a lot of teams around the country. The other thing from a recruiting perspective with Sean Miller is I think if he's in a major job, will recruit at a high level. International recruiting is one that I think, Texas has kind of maybe missed the boat on a little bit, maybe not put enough resources into, because Texas is such a worldwide brand. I think that's an area that Texas can be very successful as a basketball program in the future. So Sean Miller checks a lot of boxes. We do believe he's the front runner, barring maybe a unicorn or somebody coming in late to this process. We'll see. Again, that timeline is Chris Del Conte in the University of Texas. Second guy we want to talk about, though, is Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. Tommy Lloyd's still in the NCAA tournament, playing in around 32 today, 50 years old, 111 and 32 in 4 seasons as a head coach at Arizona. Went to the Sweet 16 his first year as a head coach, bowed out early in year 2, went back to the Sweet 16 last year, again playing in around 32 with the Wildcats today on Sunday in the NCAA tournament. But again, a guy that is, he kind of cut his teeth under Mark Few at Gonzaga. In doing that, he was arguably the best international recruiter in college basketball for many, many years. Names such as Domantas Sabonis, Rui Hashimura, Kelly Olynyk, Rodney Terry. The list goes on and on and on of guys that he was the primary recruiter of, that were international players that came over to play for Mark Few, that helped build that program and continue that program's run of consistency. Really, again, good offensive system, scores the ball at a high rate, 93 points in the first NCAA tournament game, scores the ball at a high rate, had a couple of games in the hundreds this year. So a guy that kind of fits that style, the style of college basketball, where it's all headed, and a guy that, again, has the recruiting chops, whether that's in the United States, whether that's internationally, and that's Canada, that's in Europe, wherever. He's gone everywhere around the globe to help find really quality basketball players for Mark Few and now for himself at Arizona. And he has Jack Murphy as his assistant, who, again, is another one of the guys that's talked about as one of the best international recruiters in the college game. So Tommy Lloyd, another name there. Look, there's been a lot of guys vetted, the vetting process in this job. There's been, there's the unicorns out there, the guys that everybody asks about. That could be Bill Self. That could be Rick Pitino. That could be NBA guys like Billy Donovan and Quinn Snyder. You name it, kind of go down that list. But as of right now, it doesn't look like that's where things are headed. Could that change? I'm not saying it can't change. It's always possible that could change. But right now, this is where we're at with Texas basketball. Again, I'm going to reset this before we get out of here this morning. On Texas Football continues to believe that Rodney Terry has coached his final game at the University of Texas. Will he find another job? We'll see where all that goes. I think Texas owes him around $5 million, 5.2, 5.4 for a buy as a buyout right now. And then we'll see where that goes. As far as timing, when Texas makes the decision, again, the portal opens on March 25th, runs through April 15th. And obviously those are key dates because you have less than a month to really get a head start on building your roster. And the thing to also consider, though, is you're not starting from scratch after Texas has their next hire. There's a good chance whoever's hired will bring multiple players with them to the University of Texas. That could be one guy, that could be two guys, that could be three or four guys. We'll have to see. And then you have some players at Texas that the new coach will obviously want to try to keep. So you're pretty much starting with a roster. I would think you're starting with a roster of 7 or 8. So that, and there's still some high school recruits out there. I mean, right now, Texas is in the top 2 for Koa Pete, the 5-star out of Arizona's brother Andrews Pete was a former 5-star offensive tackle still in the NFL. What would happen to a coaching change? You can't say. Too difficult to say. John Clark, a signee for the University of Texas, a top 55 level prospect in the country, 6'9", skilled power forward, grew up training with TJ Ford at TJ Ford Academy, played with that AAU program. I think he remains at Texas almost no matter what. So you're really looking at needing to fill 4 or 5 spots headed into next year when you consider that a new hire will probably bring multiple players with him. There will be multiple players retained. There's one high school signee. There's a possibility of adding another high school signee or someone who signed in the 25 class with the program where the coach moves to Texas. Obviously, that's on the table too. So you could actually come in and actually have 9 or 10 players and just need to add 2 or 3 from the portal to complete your roster in year one. We'll have to see where all that goes. So that's just laying out the possibilities there as far as the timing of when all this goes down. But we continue to believe in On Texas Football that Rodney Terry has coached his final game at Texas. And as we reported Saturday morning, we believe the front runner has emerged and had been emerging for a while, and that is Sean Miller Xavier. Does that mean it's a done deal? In this game, it's never done until the guys at the press conference. So we'll see where it goes. But this is a big moment for Chris Del Conte and the University of Texas as they look to move forward with the basketball program. Thanks for listening, tuning in this morning. I'm Gerry Hamilton, and we'll talk to you and have more soon throughout the day.